Good evening, everybody. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the executive director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is a nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We are delighted to be celebrating Come Clean with Joshua Nguyen and Wo Chan tonight. We are also joined by Lambda Literary, the Lambda Literary Review specifically. We are delighted to be with all of you wherever you're watching from throughout the country. If you want to shout out where you're watching from, feel free to do so in the chat. I'm going to introduce Wo first. So Wo uses they, them pronouns, and they are a poet and drag performer. They are a winner of the 2020 Night Boat Poetry Prize and the author of Togetherness, which is coming out May 2022. Wo has received fellowships from MacDowell, New York Foundation of the Arts, Kundiman, the Asian American Writers Workshop, and Poets House. Wo is the communications manager at Lambda Literary and also the editor of the Lambda Literary Review. Born in Macau, Wo currently lives in Brooklyn, New York, and you can find them at the Illustrious Pearl. So welcome, Wo. We are delighted to have you here.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you.
It has been, we've known Wo since their Poets and Writers days, so this is really fun. We just realized it's been like 7 years since we've seen each other, but super excited to have you here in conversation with Joshua Nguyen. Joshua is a Vietnamese American writer, a collegiate national poetry slam champion, and a native Houstonian. He is the author of the chapbook American Lupot for My Mother from Bull City Press, and has received fellowships from Kundiman, Ten House, Sundress Academy for the Arts, and the Vermont Studio Center. He has been published in the Offing, Wildness, American Poetry Review, the Texas Review, Auburn Avenue, Crab Orchard Review, and Gulf Coast Mag. He has also been featured on both the VS podcast and Tracy K. Smith's The Slowdown. He is a bubble tea connoisseur and works in the kitchen. His debut poetry collection, Come Clean, is the book we are celebrating tonight, and it was the winner of the 2021 Felix Pollock Prize in Poetry. He is a PhD student at my alma mater, the University of Mississippi, where he also received his MFA. So welcome, Joshua. Thank you so much for being with us.
And the bubble tea connoisseur.
Hey, are there bubble tea places in Mississippi now?
You know, it's funny, they just opened one last year right before the pandemic happened, but it survived and it's thriving and it's growing and it's decent.
Mississippi often gets cultural advancements about 25 years after the rest of the United States, so I'm delighted to hear that they have a bubble tea spot. But I'm going to get out of the way. Thank y'all both so much for being here, and I want to encourage folks watching at home, if you would like to ask a question, you may do so either in the chat or by clicking the Ask a Question button, and Wo will look and incorporate those in just a little bit. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Hello, Joshua. It's so good to see you. Good to see you over the internet. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. I think I'm sure I can tell you have, but I think during the pandemic, I've mastered the art of setting up lights wherever I'm at. Like wherever location I'm in, I can get the right boxes, the right height boxes, and like create the best like lightscape.
Yeah, you've got the glow, you've got the composition down. You've got the hair too. I tried to give myself a little haircut before this, and it's a little crooked. But tonight is not about me, sadly. Which I tell myself this every night before I go on screen. I'm so excited to talk to you. I just want to introduce myself first and talk a little bit about Lambda. I'm Wo Chan. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the editor of the Lambda Literary Review, which is our review for Lambda Literary. We publish book reviews, interviews, roundtables. We have a most anticipated list every month. And Lambda Literary as an organization is a nonprofit that promotes queer and LGBT voices and stories. We're so excited to be ending our year. We have coming up in the next year the 2022 Lammys, which is our landmark program where we give out awards to 24 different categories of queer LGBT writing. We also have right now, our retreat applications are open for the emerging writers retreat that we host every summer. This year it will be online, it will be virtual, it will be convenient, and it will be safe. And we have applications open in 7 genres. So if you're a young emerging, well, I shouldn't say young, but if you're an emerging writer early in your journey, would like to study some poetry or nonfiction, screenwriting, YA, we have a bunch. Hop onto our website and check that out. It's an amazing opportunity, and it jumpstarts a lot of young voices, a lot of voices early in their career, and there's no other place like it because you're going to be with your cohort and you're going to be studying with luminaries from across the field. So yes, and I would like to also give a little visual description of what's going on here if folks are just listening, or for accessibility. So I am a 30-year-old non-binary East Asian person sitting in front of some shelves. There is a ceramic bear behind me, some fans, some books. I'm wearing large glasses and a red velvet button-up corduroy matching night piece, and I have red nails. So that is me. And yes, Joshua, would you like to give a little visual description as well? Join us in this.
Yes, I'm a male identified glasses wearing bubble tea lover with, some would say, aerodynamic hair. I'm in my childhood bedroom with plain white walls, and there's some pillows in the corner, and my undergrad degree behind me. I'm wearing a gray Aerism shirt from Uniqlo, and I was not sponsored to say that. And I have some of a brown stain on one of my buck teeth, which might be from coffee. Don't look too close. Don't look too close.
Okay.
But it might be from the coffee and the bubble tea I had today.
We will talk more about your single-handed support of the one bubble tea shop in Mississippi and how you have lifted them through the pandemic and ensured their survival later. But right now, we need to introduce you and your book, Come Clean, which came out last month in November. Congratulations, winner of the Felix Pollock Prize, selected by Carmen Jimenez Smith. We're so excited to talk about it and hear you read tonight. So I want to start by asking you to maybe give an introductory poem. If you had to introduce your book with the first, what you would consider the first poem, would you suggest that folks should read from your book?
That's a great question.
Is it the first poem in your book, or
the first poem? The frontispiece does kind of lay out what to expect. The frontispiece is I guess landscape mode, where you have to flip the book. It's called Save Me, Marie Kondo. And Marie Kondo is like the aspirational hero for the speaker throughout the book, because the speaker is trying to grapple with or reckon with like a traumatic past and heal in the present. And the speaker tries to, they do that through the act of like cleaning or organizing or the domestic.
Okay, so put us into the poem now. Let us hear.
Yeah. All right. Save Me, Marie Kondo. An epigraph from Marie Kondo. When you put your house in order, you put your affairs and past in order too. I open my jaw to a framed photo of a grandmother I know from my first memory. Hospital bed, half-used tiger balm, EKG machine, rosary. It picks, and scoops little droplets of honey with a toothpick made from splinters in the door. Her shoulder smells of incense, lavender, love. Everyone around me, cousins, uncles, third cousins, friends of cousins, is crying. My father cries a sound I will never hear again. His mouth lockjawed over the beige mound at the foot of the bed. 10 lifeless toes crease beneath the hospital blanket. Or I open my jaw to a grandmother from my first memory. It splinters like ice in Texas. Her shower smells of incense in Wisconsin and never crying again. Everyone around me, cousins, uncles, and the one who grabbed me, cries. I'm crying, but a father will never come near again. My childhood room locked, reading bedtime stories that shovel the attic within the attic open. This box for the herbs, this box for the knives, this box for all her eyes, this box for her yom, this box for her pearls, this box for her globes, this box for her purple robes, this box for the cognac, this box for the Hail Marys, this box for the rice paper, this box for the orange star, this box for the tar. Or memory is a grandmother's jaw. It splinters. Yeah, that was like the there's actually, it's funny, this is like the last poem written and edited for the book, because I was trying to figure out what the frontispiece would be. I need something to like set up the stakes and set up the through line, some of the repetition of images throughout the book, and this poem became it.
I'm not surprised at all. Like, so rarely do poetry books come to us in the order that we end up, putting it. It's just like the oldest poem sometimes end up at the very end, and like the newest poem in your case ends up in the very front. So we get this
I like seeing your head.
I know, right? we get this vista of you negotiating memory. I'm curious to hear kind of how you came to poetry, like your journey into coming into poetry, and tell us how you got to this point of publishing your collection.
Yeah, I started writing when I was 13 with the local Houston youth poetry group, Metaphor, and it was a total accident. My English teacher, my 9th grade English teacher, who I love, was like, "I'm doing a mock poetry slam. If you participate, you get extra credit." I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna do it for extra credit," and I ended up winning. And then she introduced me to my early mentors, my Houston poet mentors, Outspoken Being, Fluent, and Nine, and then I tried out for the youth poetry team. I actually got 8th place. I needed to be in the top 6, so I didn't really make it. But then someone got a time penalty and someone couldn't make it, so I actually got on the team by the skin of my teeth. And ever since then, I was part of poetry communities, and then I traveled at a young age to do poetry related events. And then in undergrad, I actually was a biochem major, and I actually was still going to be a dentist for a long time. But then,
I just want to pause and say this is an incredibly Asian story.
Very Asian story.
Like exerting yourself for extra credit, like excelling. Then there's this like redemption arc of getting 8th place and like having this fire in you, but then being pushed into biochem and being a dentist. Like, okay, keep going. I'm so into this.
Yeah, and then I hope someone makes a Lifetime movie about this. But yeah, I was going to be a dentist, and I studied for the DAT, and then I applied to schools. I got one dental school interview in the Northeast. But then when I got that interview, it didn't feel right. And it's because, I've been writing on the side my whole life. I just thought I wasn't good enough to fulfill it full time. So then I was listening to Mitski at the time. I love Mitski, who's also part of this book in a way. And she has a song called "Because Dreaming Costs Money, My Dear," about like fulfilling your goals or dreams, even though it might hurt. And then I went to Waffle House, my favorite restaurant, with my best friend Tony. And I was like, "What did you learn from undergrad?" And he said, "To not lie to yourself." I think Mitski, my friend Tony, really helped me like figure out that I should, follow my.
I'm not sure if this is me, but
no, you're still there. Whoa, it's just Joshua that's cut out.
We will never know what Joshua had to follow.
At Waffle House,
At
Joshua.
Waffle House. Oh no.
Okay, we're just gonna give Joshua a moment.
If folks throughout any of this have any questions, any curiosities, or raging concerns, please ask it in this ask a question or suggest a topic box. We are happy to hear from folks and happy to address anything. Oh, now I'm the big person on screen.
It's okay. Joshua's coming back, it looks like.
Okay.
It's just he just needs to reconnect.
I see. I see.
We get to see more of your beautiful bedroom.
Yes, this is my beautiful bedroom. I sleep on the tatami mat on the floor, so I'm sitting on the ground right now. And these are nice bureau shelves that I invested in. Behind me is a West Elm bear. Oh, it's an otter. I picked this otter because they have non-binary fashions. You know, it's just like I would wear exactly what that otter is wearing. So I picked the fashions.
I love it. All right, let's see. We'll try. Give them one more shot here. Well, can you tell us a book that you're particularly excited about that you've encountered from Lambda?
Oh, from Lambda?
Mhm.
I was just gonna turn around and reach for a bunch of the new books that I bought.
Wonderful.
Yeah, let's see. Of course, I've been reading a lot of Eto et Non, and I'm actually quite excited to read her there's like a Eto et Non reader coming out in January from Nightboat that I'm pretty excited for. It collects a lot of her prose and her poetry together. I don't know, I'm kind of a weirdo. Like, I've been reading a lot of Dennis Johnson, which is so strange.
Classic.
Yeah, but like I was just shocked, you know, like finding out about this person and just being like, who is this mysterious man? I've been reading like Jim Harrison books that we've been working on our new one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea what
Josie Dode.
You're back. It's all good.
I'm
You're on my
sorry.
right side now.
I'm so
Oh.
sorry. That's the first time internet's cut out for me on a virtual.
Oh, it's no worries. It's no worries. You know, the world is a stressful place right now. Everyone in New York has Omicron.
Oh,
So
shit.
this is a pleasure. It's just a pleasure to and talk with you.
It's probably the equivalent of like someone farting on a stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I miss people farting on stages. Oh.
I miss that smell, the ambiance.
You were talking about following your dreams at Waffle House.
I love that title of my memoir. No, yeah, my friend told me basically to not lie to myself. So then I saw my friend Julian on Facebook, and he said, come to the program because it's a supportive environment. And I knew that we both grew up in the same supportive, cozy communities of spoken word poetry. So I went to Dallas to see my best friend, and I hunkered down because I only had a week left to apply. So I basically spent a whole week applying to this program.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted this program because of the coziness and of the supportive nature of it and the smallness of it, honestly. And
at that point, had you won your spoken word championships and such?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So you were comfortable within spoken word community.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was in Houston. I was in Texas, and I wanted to go to Mississippi because it felt like a place where I wouldn't be distracted, to focus on my work. But yeah, and I got in, so got really lucky, or maybe not lucky, but just really good timing. I had a week left, and I had enough time to pull it through.
That's what a dramatic journey. I want to hear more poems, but I want to ask, how was that transition from, performing on stage, doing spoken word into an MFA program, where maybe the ideas are a little different, or like the traditions or crafts might be a little different. What was that transition, or was it much of a transition for you, in terms of getting things onto a page?
Well, I think because like in undergrad, I was working with like Ariana Brown and then my mentor was like Sam Sachs, who
I see.
both are amazing on the page and the stage, to where the transition wasn't that hard. And honestly, like being part of slam was really, maybe I was good at it, but it took me so much preparation. Like it didn't come naturally to me. I think I was always better like writing it first. So the transition wasn't too bad. If anything, it helped me with a lot of the pressure of like rejection. Because a lot of people, you know, if they're not familiar with slam, you get judged on the spot by random people with numerical value. You get edited on the spot. So like having workshop and people like saying this is not working was like super generous and like very nice compared to getting like a 4.2 or something. So I think, yeah, being in slam really, for better or worse, helped me like not get too hurt if like, I don't know, I got like a journal rejection, because sometimes journal rejections like kind of can really affect people once, like, you know, depending on where they're at or like the accumulation of it. But because I was so used to rejection instantly, the idea of like a nice personal rejection from a journal was really very like sweet to me.
Yeah. Can you read us one of the poems that maybe you developed at Mississippi?
Yeah.
Are those poems are in here? Yeah.
Yeah. I so this is on page this is one of my American Lupots. So this is on page 76. So when I was in, you know, the UM program, I wanted to study this Vietnamese form that my parents taught me called the Lupot, just traditional Vietnamese form with a very strict rhyme scheme. And Vietnamese is a monosyllabic language, so there's like a whole like tonal repetition of pattern as well. But I'm not fluent in Vietnamese, and I've always like had to reckon with that. So I adopted the rules of the Lukbat, and then, for better or worse, converted it into the English polysyllabic language without, you know, tonal, without accents. So I called it the American Lukbat. So this is one I wrote because I do love fish sauce. It's one of my favorite recipes. So this is called American Lukbat for marination using fish sauce. When I open the brand new bottle, the new management burns down the door. You can't use that here. We have caught the next door neighbors in a hex, and I see them bear witness through their nostrils. They're not used to this tingle, this tooth that wiggles above their tongues. They fall and dissolve. In the hall, they shout, kick, beg for mercy out to white angels who part the sky in half, for rain to cry its cleanse unto July, to wash away the fresh fish sauce from my lips. Well, let me hawk and spit vicious tang on my shit neighbors. I will sip one last gurgle and break the flask of Viet potion fast against the ground. Witness a hole burn the floor in the way I start to season a dish, and their mouths will flay open. Yeah, that's fine. I was just in New Orleans for a week for like a little writing retreat, and then we went to a Vietnamese restaurant. It was one of those where it was definitely not a Vietnamese restaurant. It felt very white and the most subdued fish sauce. So I read that poem again for a different reading. I was so like angry, but anyways, if you have fish sauce, I hope you get like strong, pungent fish sauce.
Oh yeah, fish sauce has to have stage presence. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with fish sauce too. I guess I'm from a part of China that like cooks with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that stuff started fights in my family. You know, it's just it's too it's just like the intensity of it, you know, when someone would start a fight. I love that line, let me hawk and spit vicious tang on my shit neighbors. Yeah, this is a great hex that you've invoked. So I don't know much about the Lukebot, and I don't know if you want to speak more on it, but I'm trying to find the scheme or the pattern just by visually scanning, and I can't find it. Would you want to give us a little reader on like what's the structure of a Lupot?
Yeah. So the Vietnamese form, because Vietnamese is monosyllabic, the when you think about writing in like syllable count, you're pretty much thinking about writing in word count because it's like one for one. But basically the formal rules are it's repeating 6-syllable line, 8-syllable line, 6-syllable, 8-syllable, all the way down. But then the 6-syllable of the 6-syllable line rhymes with the 6-syllable of the 8-syllable line. And then that 8th syllable rhymed with the next 6-syllable of the 6-syllable line. But with the American Lupot, it's the same thing. So I'll put this to the screen so I can kind of share. So basically, and this is like, it's it can be loosey goosey at some points, like most formalists. But so brand. So this is the 6-syllable brand rhymes with man in management.
I can share.
Oh wow, perfect. So the sound of brand, which is the 6-syllable, rhymes with the sound of man in the next line, and that's like the 6-syllable. And then the int rhymes with the can't, and then the can't rhymes with kind of like caught. That's a close rhyme. And then next hex, and then hex, the nis and witness. So it's cool because the nature of the internal rhyme creates a lot of like momentum for the reader, and the rhymes are very hidden to where it's not in your face, but you can still hear the music of it, the sound of it.
Yeah,
that's what I love about the form.
Amazing. Thank you for breaking it down for us and giving us this micro masterclass in Lupot.
Like
I love how you. Sorry, go on.
Like in traditional Lukebots, like it was usually about like a warrior trying to find their way home, or like some sort of like rumination on culture or like their family. So whenever I write the American Lukebot, it's usually when I think about like my own identity or culture or a bridge between like the diaspora.
Right. In itself, it seems like such a diasporic theme, like the tradition of writing that form.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear more Lukebots. And I also love how you've adapted it and you're okay with like, oh, this isn't the traditional, but it's in some ways an embodiment of like how I move through the world.
Right.
And
I've been thinking a lot about like the hyphen in Asian American and how like that hyphen can act like a bridge. And with the form, I was trying to bridge like a Vietnamese literary tradition that like I'm not too familiar with, but my parents know very well, but I'm still like learning with like the tradition of what I learned in America, right? And because I'm not fluent, anything I can do to try to blend those like generational differences, I try to do. And this was like my attempt to do that and like put Vietnamese literary traditions on the forefront of contemporary literature.
Can we hear another Lukebot now that we know what to listen for and the structure a little better? I'm gonna really go for it with my brain.
Yeah, we can do. Let's turn to page 49.
Page what?
49. So this is a little. I didn't talk about this rule variation, but anytime there's a stanza break, the rhyme scheme can start over.
Oh.
So yeah, this is American Lukebot for adding pepper to taste the dark. Bee smoke stuck between your teeth, like French kissing a wreath made of your favorite colonizers. Grind into fine sprinkles, ash like a sprained ankle, black stone reflecting a new zone in the galaxy. Home in space filled with dark matter, taste of salt only comes from the stars. But stars are finicky. Are you into bright or are you into infinite? Come to the dark side. be the muse that gets stuck between loose white teeth, a safer later treat.
Mm.
So this is a good example where like once there's a stanza break, the rhyme scheme kind of starts over. It doesn't carry over to the next stanza.
Yeah, this one has a lot of style, this poem. The sound, for sure.
And it was, yeah, it's cool because I'm still able to like sneak in rhymes, which sometimes like are frowned upon, which I don't, agree with, but it's a way for me to get my my rhyme itch out.
Yeah. Is there a cultural significance between black pepper and white pepper that I don't know about?
Oh, I think because starting with the idea of like the French colonizing Vietnam, I wanted to like have this poem think about like it kind of starts off with the idea of like the whiteness of colonizers, especially within Vietnamese history. Yeah, and I think I ended it with the loose white teeth, just to bookend the idea of like being in between, or being part of a culture that kind of now romanticizes like French, things like banh mi is from like French, and like a lot of Vietnam looks, has like the French like architecture. So I think this poem was like a reckoning with that.
So I know like as there's a lot of writing about food, and I wanted to, and I grew up in a restaurant. My parents owned the restaurant, and I was wondering like did yours as well, or
what kind of restaurant did your parents
my parents own a Chinese restaurant, but I'm noticing a lot of food in your writing, and I know you work in a kitchen, so I was curious like was that also part of your background, or how did you like decide this to be like a subject in your writing?
I think because the speaker deals with life through the quotidian, cooking was like had to be part of that arsenal for the speaker to heal and to reckon. And yeah, I worked in a restaurant for the past like 4 or 5 years, and I learned the grunt work of it, especially working in the kitchen, like on a brunch Sunday, serving like usually middle class or rich, like snobby white mothers or families, and just like the idea of like I wanted to write about food, but not to romanticize it too much, to show like the work of it. Because my chapbook before was way more loving, because that was like a love letter to my mom, because she taught me my favorite Vietnamese dish before I went to Mississippi. So each like page is like is a step from that dish, and it's like a poem. And here, because the speaker is dealing with like a lot of heavy stuff, cooking either becomes a way to heal, but also I think I show more of the just like the work involved in like preparing a dish or just cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that engagement with the quotidian, and it's so interesting the way that you've structured this book. There is quite an architecture. There's almost like these saints that you speak to. There's Marie Kondo, and then there's also Mitski, and then there are these like relic performance images of you cleaning, which is another quotidian thing. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you fall upon that structure of like having these, I'm calling them saints, but there's these characters you speak to, and then the big Mitski quotes and the imagery that you include?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was hard to write, like, of course not all of this is like 100% accurate, but a lot of the initial experiences are based in my memory, and they were kind of hard to think about. But once I could figure out the structure, once I realized that, I could talk about this hardship through this idea of the quotidian and this idea of like cleaning and organizing and cooking, it was way easier for me to write what I needed to write, because there was like an act of like organizing for myself, my own memories. And I think I invoked like Mitski. I invoked Marie Kondo first, because if I'm talking about like organizing, cleaning, also being like Asian or Asian American, that's like most people know Marie Kondo from that kind of like idea.
Mhm.
Like I think Marie Kondo is like the like the optimistic, like the best version you could be in terms of like organizing, cleaning. But then you have someone like Mitski, where in a lot of her lyrics you find a lot of like lines of like the quotidian domestic, but she always comes usually from a sadder, darker place, which I think is channeled through the speaker. So they're like on a spectrum where like Marie Kondo is here where you want to be, Mitski is here, but she's way sadder.
Yeah.
And all that. So you have like the actual like pop culture references of the quotidian, and then the Polaroids and happened where my partner and I figured we should do like a visual representation of like this vulnerability through the quotidian. So if you see any of the section
the section breaks,
I'm like, that's actually me in underwear doing a quotidian like act. This is me and it was, it's just a visual representation of like the vulnerability of the speaker trying to deal with like the sad stuff while also like physically cleaning clutter. So
I want to hear another poem, maybe one. Well, also if anyone has a poem they want to hear from Joshua, suggest it in the comments or in the question box. I don't want to be the person asking you to read the whole time, but I would love to hear either a cleaning poem or a Marie Kondo poem.
Ooh, okay.
I also don't trust my dishwasher, by the way. So
I still am very hesitant of it. My mom has come around to. I'm not gonna read that one. That's too long.
Yeah. I'm just.
I could, but it might take a while. But it's a good cleaning one. I will read. Yeah, I guess I read the title poem. It's called "Come Clean."
Oh, awesome.
It's on page 40.
Okay.
This one involves like some food, some laundry, that kind of stuff. And for those who need like a visual representation,
I can share my screen.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
It's written in the form of a hustle, and the repeating sound becomes more white or cleaned out as you go down the poem. Come clean. I lied. I said Wisconsin, but it was a much colder place. Let's say Washington. Truth be told, it was next to a river that led to a dam that led to a wash. I said I blame my cousin, but in fact, I blame myself. I said I blame the basement, but I blame the washer that ruined the sound of doing laundry. The violent tumbling of my body down the stairs. A wet ball of clothing. A washer falling from the wall, through the drain, and out the sink in Chicago, where I am 13, laying bare on an unwashed dorm room comforter, stuck between a bunk bed and a 20-year-old body. The warring wash of applause from her friends cheering her on. A container too hot. The pine wood of me melting inwards. The garlic of her breath washing my innocence with too much bleach, too much white on the sheets, like a massage table, like watching the ground as the masseuse reaches for the extra tip to feed their family. How my body walked out washed in a white robe, my boy mouth telling my uncle the dirty thing that happened to me as he continues to watch the owl eyes on the street in Vietnam. Says, relax, we're on vacation, you're a man now. Our happy ending money washed and laundered. When I get back home, I fold all my laundry into neat pillars on my bed. I place my body into the washer. I am a spin cycle of a fetus, playing a game of hide and crease. I win when my stained teeth are all that's left to wash.
Thank you for sharing that poem.
Thanks. I don't read that poem often. I just realized I couldn't look up when I was reading it because so like the lines are very intense. So I had to like focus on getting through it.
It is intense. Thank you for sharing it and reading it to us, and also explaining to us that it's a hustle.
Yeah.
What made you arrive to that choice, and how did this? I mean, it's a title poem, right? So, I wanted to ask a little bit about how did this poem come to be? When did you realize that this would be the title poem?
Yeah, it kind of comes a little halfway through the book, and I wanted a poem that kind of sums up some of all of like the repetition of memory that was happening to the speaker of like the sad traumatic past all like in one poem. And because all the repetitions keep coming and coming, by the time we get to this poem, I wanted the idea of like cyclical nature to reappear. And I think that's great for the hustle because the sound keeps coming. You can't really escape that sound, and then so this idea of like an escapability from memory, I think fit well with this form of the hustle, and also love like using the term wash because there's so many puns, so many like different uses of the sound wash that I could play with. Um, and yeah, I think it was a good way to kind of pack in all the repetitions of memory, and like if you don't understand what was happening to the speaker, but at this point, I think you should.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think maybe it was helpful that we also put it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for sharing this poem. I wanted to ask. You said your parents taught you the Lupot, and I'm just curious about what's been the reception of your book, particularly with your family or like people who are close to you. Like, what's been the best reaction, reception? What's been funny?
It's been nice. I think so because my book was delayed, there's further like shipping delays when it officially came out.
Yeah.
But one of the first people who got it was my older sister, and she posted about it, and she read it that night. She read it in like one sitting. And then the next day she like told me her favorite poem, which is very nice to hear. And then my parents bought 5 copies, 1 for them and 5 for random friends, I guess to show off, which is sweet.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I knew that part. 5 for bragging. Yeah.
And they actually came to at a reading yesterday in Houston. It was at this outdoor beautiful event called Right About Now, and my family came to support. And they probably only see me perform or read like 3 times. This is probably like the 3rd time ever. Very cool and nice. It was cool. I mean, we haven't really talked about the specifics of it, which I think is natural. But they've been very supportive. Like, they're not. Yeah, they've been like showing it off to people. I think my mom's happy too because like I have health insurance now because of my PhD program. So all is good.
Right. You do have a poem in here about your mom explaining universal health.
Yeah, she works at Progressive Insurance. Insurance is very important to her for me to have.
Do you want to share a poem about one of your parents?
I do the health insurance.
Okay. I mean, it's between your mom, your dad, or your cat in terms of
But funny thing, I don't have a cat. So that's poetic licensing for y'all right there. Boom. All right, so this is called My Mother Explains Universal Healthcare. It's on page 65.
Got you.
So a quick story about this. This was inspired when I did tell my parents that I was not going to be a dentist and I was going to do writing. I wrote like out a check of all the help that my dad helped me pay for like dental stuff, like school stuff or dental study stuff. And then it was like a very serious dinner, and I told him I was going to be a writer. And my mom like started crying, and she was like, "No one's going to love you because you're going to be poor and a writer." It's very funny. But then she was like, I just want you to have health insurance, and now I got it.
Okay,
So,
but who loves their dentist though? Let's just stop there.
that's true. I love my dentist. She's very personable. She's Vietnamese. She's very like she's very headstrong, very like
You love
well
your
written.
dentist.
Yeah. Look, go get your, if you can, go get your cleaning, your twice a year cleaning. This is called My Mother Explains Universal Health Care. The bird gives a feather to the sky like all the other birds do. The bird doesn't get angry about giving a feather. The bird has many feathers to pluck. From afar, it still looks like a bird. One feather a month is for the health of all birds. Blue jays, the assholes, cardinals, pigeons, hummingbirds, penguins, and flamingos. When a bird hops on one leg, someone will nurse it back to health, and the bird doesn't pay a feather. The bird flies on because it should, because it deserves a chance to live. The bird flows gorgeous with the wind. The wind reveals spots where the bird plucked itself. You are not a bird. You are not allowed to fly.
What the hell? The hell? That's incredible.
Thanks. Shout out to bird imagery. I got into birding during the pandemic, so
Was
nice.
that your pandemic hobby? Mine was making cheesecakes.
What?
Yeah,
Not
I'm
bread, but cheesecakes.
cheesecake, no bake cheesecakes. If I also I love Houston, so if I'm ever around, I'm gonna have to bring you a cheesecake. This poem is amazing. So I'm gonna do that dumb poem thing where I'm just like, is this like an imagined metaphor, or was this like spoken? Because it's also such a good way to explain universal healthcare. Like I get it now. I get it.
I was applying to a job with a health insurance company. I submitted this poem. No, I'm just joking.
Okay.
No, I think I wanted to explain what I thought, because I still don't understand healthcare, or what how it works. But I think I understood universal healthcare, and this was my way of understanding it. And I think it was just because I was in the pandemic thinking about birds a lot more. And I love like this idea of like using the extended metaphor of birds as a way, as like a childlike way to like explain healthcare. And because it's like based in a very childlike innocence, this poem, I think that's why the last stanza kind of hits hard, because it's like very sad, because it kind of goes back to reality quickly. Where like the birds up here, and then like land right at the ground, at the ground of the poem. So yeah, I'm happy I got to use like hummingbirds and penguins and flamingos in the poem. That was
Your
fun.
usage of form and the way you take up space on a page is so incredible. As I'm moving through, I'm seeing like Google calendars, I'm seeing like grids, but it's all in service of organization, right? Because that's and cleaning and like things in the right place, which like does not serve how we experience memory, which you have showed us. So it's just a great internal tension of like form and theme kind of like pulling against each other, creating a lot of friction. I wish we had
that.
Yeah. Thanks for laying it out in like a really engaging and intriguing way, Rick. It's not, it doesn't hit you over the head, but when you spend enough time with a particularly good book of poetry, you eventually kind of like see how the theme goes with or against the embodiment of the words on the page. I wanted to ask if you would like, how do you read the grid poems? Do you read them out loud? Do you perform them?
It's funny. So yeah, the thing about the Google Calendar poem, which is on 51, that was like, I remember I was like, I'm never reading this. I have no idea how to read this. But then I read it recently for another reading, and I decided that I could just choose certain days to read. So like, I think the other day I just read Sunday, Monday, Friday, and then so it's cool because depending on my mood or the vibe of the room, I could like choose like specific columns to read. Or if it's like a Monday, I could read the Monday section just like straight down. And I learned that when I read it, it just feels like a list poem. And I'm like, oh, I can read a list poem. So yeah, I haven't touched Thursday. Thursday, I'm not sure how to read because Thursday the events are like all on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a busy day.
That's a busy day. But it's cool. Yeah, it reads like a list poem out loud, and I'm very happy that I figured out how to read it, and it can be kind of like customizable too, which is cool.
Yeah. Do you mind if I just share the screen a little bit to see
Yeah.
what that looks? Or it's like it's sideways on for me, but it's wonderful. I love the little moments of like eat yogurt, car payment.
Yeah, just a mixture of like everyday quotidian with like very serious reflections of, you know, selfhood and, you know, identity.
What did you feel was the like principal challenge in putting this collection together? Because
I think the principal challenge, I think this is kind of a broader answer, but it was kind of like an existential crisis of like, you know, climate change is happening and a lot of shitty things are happening. So like I felt this urge to like put everything in this book because I was afraid that might be my only chance. But then, you know, I took a class at with this professor, my professor Derek Carell, and his workshop is all about like the total package of like a book, of a manuscript, or a chapbook, and how like it's kind of like an album or a mixtape. So then he taught me that like, and he was on my committee as well when I was working on my thesis. And so Derek was like, just because you have like some great singles or great hits, if they don't service the entire arc of the album, means for a different album. So I took out a lot of like poems I really loved from this book because it just didn't fit, you know, the architecture of like the quotidian or the architecture of like the emotional arcs I try to get the speaker through. So the hard part was honestly trusting my own like theme that I set up for this book.
Yeah.
And not wavering from it just because I was afraid that this might be my only book, which I think maybe a lot of first time book people or debut authors think about.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're at that place where it's like, I have to put my whole life in here.
Yeah.
But then like a life is so complicated, you know, especially as you come to know the world a little more. It's like, well, there's global warming. I need to talk about that. And it's like, well, yeah. What did you, so within this collection, what's like your favorite poem? Like what's the piece that you love performing the most?
We mentioned it before it started, but the stripper poem, I'm glad it made it. I have a poem that begins the second section, and it's one of my oldest poems, and one of my earliest like published poems in a journal. But it's called "After I Was Mistaken for the Stripper While Delivering Barbecue to an All-White Bachelorette Party." And I think because it blends humor well with like, you know, sad shit, and it's like a great. When I perform it, the first section is all jokes and puns essentially, which really like makes me laugh when I read it out loud. I hear people laugh.
Will you read it, or are you?
Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, I also like how there are pictures of you like ungarbed cleaning. It's like very thematic, you know. It's like supplementary.
Thanks.
I'm gonna share the screen.
All right. After I was mistaken for another story. This was based on my time in Austin, Texas, during undergrad, where I did a lot of food service, or I did food delivery jobs. Right, I did Grubhub, Postmates, all that, and I did it like at 2 a.m. So I got into a lot of weird stories and like situations in Austin, Texas, and this was based off one of those situations. After I was mistaken for the stripper while delivering barbecue to an all-white bachelorette party. 1. If I had a stripper name, it would be pork loins. Marinated in my mother's seasoning, I am mostly bone, but my butt is meaty. My neck is long, but you can still love me if you want a brisket. In the eventual end, it will be my own doing. If I had a dollar bill for every human who wanted to see me naked, I'd still be paying loans back. Being wanted was never simmered. I am the lamb's wool and the wolf crying beneath thin skin, licked between my ribs in rich blandness. I am best served with oyster sauce. 2. And there I stood, a bag of meat, head in the crosshairs, unknown terrain, door closing behind, young deer in the trenches, stay motionless. Don't make the first move, kindled fire, feet too warm, apple between the teeth, arrow pointed to the navel, knives and forks and stomachs, lack of fat, sucked bones, upside down, blood draining, unconsciousness. Serpent at my throat, boiling rice. Serpent in my throat, not clean. Serpent down my throat. 3. Is this what being a sacrifice smells like? 26 jewel-studded cowboy boots circle me, tongues glistening in the spur of heat.
I'm scared. I feel fear.
Me too.
Wow. I love how the form, there's the prose block, and then we just go into the sunken place. It just like drops through the page.
Like getting darker and darker into like a more intense, scarier state.
Thoughtful, thought out, well planned. Thank you for reading this poem and sharing it. Was it always in 3 sections?
It was always in 3 sections. And that was because I think I wrote it. I almost wrote it as 3 different poems, but then I think the juxtaposition of like all 3 sections really worked. So I kind of edited all 3 sections, and put it together to service one whole arc.
Yeah, it really works, and I could see how it's like a principle, like a really fun poem to perform. It hits all the notes. We have like a couple minutes left, so I firstly wanted to touch upon, you were saying how not all the poems that you super duper loved made it into this collection. So it got me curious to wonder, are you dreaming of a future home for them right now? Do you have any projects stirring in the mind that you want us to be maybe on the lookout for?
I have 3 projects. I think honestly the closest one is a short story collection.
Okay.
And that's a very funny book where the stories are based. It's called Ghosts of Color right now. And essentially it's like mixes it's a juxtaposition of like paranormal scary tropes with like funny situations. So like,
pretty funny title.
Yeah. So think like Leatherface trying to get through TSA at the airport, like that kind of stuff. And then my 2 poetry books, my dissertation right now, it kind of looks at the gym as a counterpublic or a queer space. And it kind of ruminates on like asexuality politics in the book, and like how to write about desire and body that way, through that lens.
This is another poetry book that you're working on?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fascinating.
And that one is like in the works. And then I have a 3rd project that I have to re-edit because I've had it for a while. That one's just based off like Houston. It's like an homage to Houston and talks about like Hurricane Harvey.
Okay.
But I think the next closest thing is the short story collection.
Nice. Okay, we'll keep a lookout for it. Closing question. What's your bubble tea order?
Oolong.
We can have a boba now, okay? Let's go. What's your bubble tea order?
Tea with boba, 75% sugar.
Okay. Where do you get it?
So my top favorite boba spot in the world is Boba Guys, which is out of California. And,
You're a
and
boba.
then
You're a boba guy.
my favorite out of Houston or Texas is Tea Presso, which I think is out of Hawaii, but there's one in Houston.
Okay. I'm a taro boba gal if I need to be, but I have a complicated history with boba and just like drinking my boba feelings. So that's why I'm a renunciate right now. But I have but I respect the fact that you are a boba PhD connoisseur and snob. And I think we've had a respectful conversation, despite all of
maybe too respectful.
Maybe too respectful. Yeah. I hope your teeth rot from all that boba.
It is. You see it right there. It's chipped.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
man.
It's worth it though.
Yeah. Okay. The problem with boba is that you can't. Here's the real deal. You can't drink boba casually. You know, you have boba once, and then the next day you're like, oh, I want another boba, and then you're just drinking boba every day of the week. That would be my Google calendar.
But it's like coffee. You get addicted. Like
but you can't get addicted to boba because it's just high fructose corn syrup. So that's my take on it.
Well, I love boba. I love gambling. I love coffee.
You love gambling.
All the vices.
You're gambling with your dental health. are you still here? I don't know how this platform works.
Oh, you are here. I'm popping back.
You're backstage cracking up at our.
I am. I was thinking about how I don't have a deep relationship with boba or bubble tea.
It's part of the Asian culture. It's a discourse. Yeah. It's a Facebook.
It's a hyphen in Asian American. Like that's like the diasporic like connection.
It's the bridge.
It's the branch.
Yes, buy the book. There's a beautiful green button.
Yes. So everybody at home, click this teal link to buy Come Clean from Charis. It really does help us when you buy the book from us. It also makes a great holiday gift. So that would be a fun thing to buy someone. We'd love for you to join us this Saturday at Charis. I will be personally wrapping presents. It's a fundraiser for Charis Circle, so you can bring all the presents you don't want to wrap from other stores, and I will wrap them for you for a donation. So I will be dressed up with a Santa hat, not like a whole stomach and everything, but a hat.
Yeah, it's a bit intimidating. The hat is where to go.
Just a little, you know, just a little extra. So we will have copies of Joshua's book and many, many more things. So if you need help with holiday shopping, happy to do that too. But this has been really fun. I hope, Joshua, that the rest of your tour goes great and that you have lots of success with this book and all future books. And whoa, I'm very excited about your book coming out next year. So I hope that we can get back together and celebrate that virtually as well. If not in person.
I'm going to have 1 million tattoos by then. I'm so excited.
I'm here for it.
Title or what?
Yeah. Joshua, if you're ever in New York, hit me up. I'm sure you have my email somewhere. Yeah. So I would
trying to plan either a hybrid, like second leg of the tour in the Northeast next summer.
We got to get boba. We got to get boba and dim sum.
And then hopefully we can be together. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I would love to do that. So if you're ever in the area, please hit me up.
But you have to drink boba during the reading. That's my only rule.
I can drink. I can do that. I can revert to my old ways. It's not hard.
Then you just have to cut it off afterwards.
Yeah.
It's not the starting that's hard. It's
the starting is easy.
Exactly. Well, thank you both so much for a fun night. Stay safe and well, and until next time, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.